Hey mathematicians! Today our lesson is over long division using the grid method. Our TEK is 4.4F to use strategies and algorithms, including the standard algorithm, to divide up to a 4-digit dividend by a 1-digit divisor. Let's go ahead and read our learning goal together. Today I am learning how to divide multi-digit numbers so I can estimate and solve real-world problems. I'll know I have it when I can define and identify divisor, dividend, and quotient. I can explain that division is the same as repeated subtraction. I can choose a strategy to fluently divide up to a 4-digit dividend by a 1-digit divisor. Let's look at our real-world connection. You and your parents are buying 2,034 pieces of Halloween candy. You are going to 3 different Halloween-themed events and want to take the same amount of candy to each event. You will need to know how to divide in order to make sure your groups of candy are equal. Another example might be that Grandma has $1,500 she wants to spend on gifts for her 6 grandchildren this year. Grandma will have to use division if she wants to spend an equal amount on each grandchild. After all, it's only fair. Let's review our vocabulary before we get started on our lesson. Remember, a dividend is the number that is being divided. Divisor is the number the dividend is being divided by. Quotient is the answer to a division problem, or the size or number of each group. Remainder is the amount left over when a number cannot be divided equally. Expression is a mathematical phrase without an equal sign. Equation is a number sentence that shows 2 quantities are equal. Alright, let's go ahead and jump into our mini lesson, but first I want to quickly review division. So remember, division is just repeated subtraction. It gives us a shortcut called an algorithm. That's a fancy way to say strategy. Let's look at an example. Izzy was placing her necklace on a jewelry organizer. She had 24 necklaces. She has 6 hooks to hang them on. How many necklaces will be on each hook? So we could use repeated subtraction where we repeatedly subtract 6. We would do that 1, 2, 3, 4 times. We could break these 24 necklaces up into 6 groups where we put 1 necklace in each group until we have put all 24 necklaces into a group, and we would end up with 4 necklaces per group. We can draw an array where we have 6 rows and 4 columns, and then it looks like we have 6 rows of 4 each. Or we could use a number line where we count by 6 until we get to 24, which would give us 4. So today we're going to learn how to use grid method. A grid method is handy when our numbers are too large to use repeated subtraction or arrays or equal groups. So as our numbers are getting larger, we need a new strategy on how to solve these long division problems. So to set up our grid method, we're going to start by counting the number of digits in the dividend. So we're going to count 1, 2, 3 digits in our dividend, and then we're going to draw that number of boxes. So I'm going to be using a template today that I will also upload for you, and I'm also going to put in a video on how to set up this box division using blank lined paper. So after we have our 3 boxes drawn, we're going to write 1 digit in the upper right corner of each box, starting with the box on the left. So we'll put our first digit, which is our hundreds place, our second digit, which is our tens place, and our third digit, which is our ones place. Then we'll write the divisor to the left of the first box. We'll list our multiples somewhere where we have room, and now we're ready to divide. So I'm going to be using these steps, the acronym Does McDonald's Sell Cheeseburgers Regularly, to help us remember how our steps to long division. So this little acronym is going to help me remember that I need to first divide, then multiply, then subtract. I'm going to check, bring down, and then I'm going to repeat those steps until I can't divide anymore. So let's go ahead and look at an example. So we're going to start with this problem, 85 divided by 5. So I'm going to go ahead and list my multiples of 5 all the way 1 through 9. And then I'm going to divide. That's my first step of division. I need to ask myself, how many times does 5 go into 8? So I can look at my multiples and I want to find a multiple of 5 that is as close to 8 as I can get, but without going over 8. So I can only go into 8 one time, which is this 5. If I go in 2 times, I go above 8, I go to 10, and that's too many times. So I can only go in 1 time. So I'm going to put that 1 up top right here. My next step is to multiply. I'm going to multiply what I wrote on top, this 1, by my divisor, which is 5. So we know 1 times 5 is 5, and I'm going to write that product right underneath the 8 in my first box. My next step is to subtract. So I'm going to subtract 8 minus 5, that's going to equal 3, and I'm going to write the 3 at the bottom of the box. Now my next step is to check, and this check is pretty important. I need to make sure that this difference between 8 and 5 is smaller than my divisor. If it's not smaller, that means that I've missed a multiple and I need to go back and check to see if it's possible that I can divide 5 one more time. Because our difference is smaller, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next step. Our next step is to bring the 3 up into the next box. We're going to bring that 3 up and we're going to put it next to the 5. So this is now our new dividend. So now we're going to repeat our steps. So we go back to divide. We're going to divide 5 into 35. So we need to ask ourselves, how many times is 5 divided into 35? Well, if I look at my multiples, I can see that it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. So I'm going to put the 7, let me move this over. I'm going to put the 7 up top above the box that I'm dividing into. And next I'm going to multiply. So 7 times 5 is 35. I'll write the product below in the box. Then I'm going to subtract. 35 minus 35 is 0. I'm going to write those zeros in the bottom here. And then I'm going to check, is my difference smaller than the divisor? If it is, I can move on to the next step. So I can bring this 0 up and write a remainder as 0. However, if I have nothing left over, it's not really necessary that I write a remainder 0 because my quotient is simply 17. So you could write it either way. You could write quotient equals 17 or 17 with a remainder of 0. So I'm going to be uploading this video for you. I want you to go and watch it. It's how to set up grid method long division using blank lined paper. All right, let's look at another example. So we're going to be dividing 789 divided by 6. So I'm going to go ahead and list my multiples of 6. Then I'm going to ask myself, how many times does the divisor go into the first digit? So I'm going to look at my list of multiples. I'm looking for a number that gets as close to 7 as possible, but without going over. So that's going to be this 6, this first multiple. So I'm going to put a 1 above that first box. And then my next step is to multiply. So 1 times 6 is going to get me a product of 6. I'm going to write that below my digit in the first box. And then I'm going to subtract. 7 minus 6 equals 1. Then I need to check, is this 1, this difference, smaller than my divisor? If it is, then I can move on to my next step. If not, I need to go back and check if I missed a multiple. So I'm going to bring my 1 up into the next box and I have a new dividend. I'm now going to be dividing 6 into 18. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat my steps until I get a quotient. So my first step, my first step is going to be divide. So I need to see how many times 6 can divide into 18. Well, looking at my list of multiples, I can go in 1, 2, 3 times. So I'm going to put that 3 above the box that I'm dividing into. Then I'm going to multiply. 3 times 6 is 18. Going to put that product in the same box I'm dividing into. Then I'm going to subtract. 8 minus 8 is 0. 1 minus 1 is 0. And now I'm going to check. Is my difference smaller than my divisor? It is, so I can bring it up to the next box. And now I have a new dividend. I'm going to divide 6 into 9. 6 divides into 9 one time. So 6 times 1 is 6. After I multiply, I'm going to subtract. 9 minus 6 is 3. So it looks like I have a remainder of 3. My quotient is 131 with a remainder of 3. All right, I'm going to also put this video in for you. I'm going to upload it for you. It's on how to set up a grid method long division using blank lined paper. All right, let's go ahead and look at our last example. So we're now dividing into a 4-digit number. We're dividing by a 1-digit number. So I'm going to start by dividing. How many times can this 3 divide into 4? Looking at my list of multiples, 3 is as close as I can get to 4 without going over, so it can go in 1 time. I'm going to put that 1 above the box I'm dividing into. Then I'm going to multiply. 1 times 3 gives me 3. I'll write that product below the digit in the first box. Then I'm going to subtract. 4 minus 3 gives me 1. And now I need to check, is this difference less than my divisor? If it is, I can move on. So I'm going to bring up that 1 into my next box, creating a new dividend of 19. I'm now dividing 3 into 19. And now I can repeat all my steps until I have nothing left to divide into. So I'm going to start by dividing 3 into 19. So if I look at my list of multiples, I want to get as close as I can to 19, but without going over. So it looks like that's 18, which is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th multiple. So we're going to put a 6 up top. Then we're going to multiply. 6 times 3 is 18. After I multiply, I'm going to subtract. 9 minus 8 is 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. I'm going to check, is this difference smaller than my divisor? Yes, so I can go ahead and bring it up. My new dividend is 17. So I'm going to look at my list of multiples and see how many times 3 can go into 17. So it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. If I go 6 times, I go over 17. So 5 is as many times as I can divide. Then I'm going to multiply. 5 times 3 is 15. 7 minus 5 is 2. 1 minus 1 is 0. Then I'm going to check, is this 2 smaller than the 3? If it is, I can go ahead and bring it up, creating a new dividend of 26. And now I'm going to divide 3 into 26. So it looks like it can go in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? 24 is as close to 26 as I can go without going over. So 8 times 3 times 8 is 24. 6 minus 4 is 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. So I have a remainder of 2. And my quotient is 1,658 with a remainder of 2. All right, I'm also going to upload this last video for you. It's setting up grid method long division using a 4-digit by a 1-digit numbers using blank lined paper. All right, let's do a quick check for understanding. 325 divided by 5, where does my dividend go in the grid method? Go ahead and pause if you need to formulate an answer. So my dividend is going to go inside the boxes, starting with my largest place value. So 3 is in the hundreds place, 2 is in the tens place, 5 is in the ones place. Where does the divisor go when setting up my grid method? It's going to go on the outside of the box to the left.